So good morning, ladies and gentlemen, on this wonderful Monday morning. I believe it is April 6th. April 6th? Yeah, I believe it's April 6th. Today's lesson is going to be pretty short. We're going to be talking about absolute value functions. Now, an absolute value function, you should be able to see, or at least an absolute value, is when you have something within these two vertical bars. That means anything that's negative inside these two vertical bars will become positive after the operation is over. Like if I had a negative 3 in there, well, that becomes a positive 3 when the operation is taken care of. If I have a negative 10,000, I was about to make just a positive there. If I have a negative 10,000, becomes a positive 10,000. You get the picture. So, as I said, anything that's negative inside these bars becomes positive. If the value is already positive, nothing changes. Remember that. Get that in your brain. If it's a negative inside the bar, it becomes positive. If the value is already positive, nothing changes. I've had many students over the years say, oh hey, if it's negative it becomes positive, if it's positive it becomes negative. No, that's when you multiply by a -1, not when you have an absolute value. So, let's suppose that x is equal to 4 in these problems. Now, for some of my students this might seem familiar because on our last week before spring break, we had a little bit about absolute value functions. So today's a little bit of review, but tomorrow we will be talking about graphing. So we need our ability to understand equations and functions before we understand about graphing absolute values. So let's plug in a positive 4 into this. Now normally, what's 4 minus 10? -6, right? But what we say about an absolute value bar is, what do? They turn everything negative into positive. That is a pretty good 6. Maybe I'm getting a little bit better with this writing pen. Alright, now that gives me, now I have an absolute value of -3x plus 8. So, what's -3 times 4? -12, Mr. K. Good job, class. So I've got -12 plus 8. Which should give me, well, -12 plus 8 gives me a -4, if I remember correctly. Yeah, alright, good. But that would give me a positive 4 in the end. Now, what's different about this one? Take just a moment. Alright, as you should see, we have something on the outside of that absolute value function. Now, if you have something on the outside of your absolute value function, pointed correctly, yeah, down there, that does not necessarily mean that you're going to have a positive value at the end of your equation. The absolute value only changes things that are inside those bars. Anything on the outside stays the same. So, 10 times 4, well, 10 minus 4 times 4 should be 10 minus 16 minus 12. Well, 10 minus 16 is a -6, right? -6 minus 12 should give me 6 minus 12. Now 6 minus 12 is a -6. Wow. That got a little bit away from me. Should give me a -6. So, as I said, if you have something on the outside of your absolute value function, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to end up with a positive value at the very end. We were positive until we had to minus that 12. Once we had to minus that 12, all bets were off. So, take that, memorize it. The only way that we can have an absolute value function have a negative value is if there's something on the outside of that absolute value function. So, take that with this check for understanding. If x is equal to a -2, which of the following will give you a negative value? Keyword on that negative. If it has positive, I don't want to select it. If it's neutral, don't want to select it. I want to select the one that is negative. Take 5 seconds, pause the video, see what you can do. When you're counting seconds, 5 seconds go by very slowly. So, alright, ladies and gentlemen, answer to this one is D. Now you might say, wait a second, Mr. K. B doesn't give you a positive value, because that's going to be absolute value of -2 minus 2, which gives me 2 minus 2, which gives me 0. That's not positive. Well, right, class, except I said negative. 0 is neither negative or positive, so it doesn't work. Now, if you do the rest of these, first one, -2 minus 2 would give you -4. Absolute value of -4, positive 4. This one down here, C, should give you a 14. But the shortcut to this one, which one of these has something outside an absolute value? D has a subtraction outside the absolute value, which would give you 2 minus 2 times 2 gives you 2 minus 4 . Yep, D's our answer with a -2. Hope you guys see that. Hope you guys are also having a good Monday, or you had a good weekend. Alright, now to get on to the fun stuff. Solving absolute value function equations. It's definitely a mouthful. Admittedly, this function might be redundant. You could probably just say solving absolute value equations, or absolute value. Time to clear errors. Once again, not an English teacher, and I misspell and leave out things all the time. When you solve an absolute value function equations, wow, definitely fun with this one, you will sometimes have more than one answer. Because remember, all those times where we had to switch from negative to a positive, technically you generated 2 answers. So you always need to be careful that you might have a second answer that you're not aware of. So, I have the absolute value of 2x minus 8, close absolute value, minus 12 is equal to 4. If we want to solve this, or if we want to solve for x, see what number makes this equation true, we have to do opposite operations. We have to undo this minus 8, that times by 2, have to undo this absolute value, and undo the minus 12. Now, when I solve equations, I always imagine it as kind of eating a cookie. I don't know why, but it's just, this is the first thing I thought of. But when you're eating a cookie, you can't just go for the middle of the cookie first. You can't just jump into wherever this is. You have to work from the outside to the inside. So, before I do anything, I have to get rid of that minus 12. And the opposite of a minus 12 is a plus 12. So that gives me 2x minus 8, absolute value, is equal to 16. Now, before I get rid of this minus 8 or that times 2, I have to get rid of these absolute value bars, right? Well, the only thing that changes when you get rid of absolute value bars is that you generate 2 answers. You have 2x minus 8 is equal to a positive 16. You just get rid of the bars. And then you have 2x minus 8 is equal to a negative 16. Now, Mr. K, why do we have 2 answers now? Good question, class. Remember, absolute value bars turns anything negative to a positive. So this 16 could have been a negative 16. It could have been positive, or it could have been negative. Just after we did the absolute value of the one on the left, it just changed everything to a positive. So now we have this, just goes back to solving like normal. Add 8 to both sides. 2x is equal to 24. 24 divided by 2, x is equal to 12. Now over here, 2x, when you add 8 to both sides, well, negative 16 plus a, I have 2x is equal to negative a. And then, almost look like a chi-square there. Or almost look like a chi there, Greek letter. X is equal to a negative 4. That is not a negative x, that's just a normal x. I just got a little sloppy with my x's. So my two answers, as I said, I could have two answers. It's x is equal to 12, x is equal to negative 4. Now here, as a little fun extra question, how would you start this one off? Would you minus 24 on both sides, or would you divide by a negative 4? Remember that analogy, eating a cookie. That's what works best for me. Admittedly, you could divide everything by 4, but to make it the most simple, I'll subtract 24 first. So negative 4x is equal to minus 20. What's negative 20 divided by negative 4? Well, that means absolute value of x is going to be negative 5. Or, no, not negative 5. Positive 5. Remember, negative divided by negative is positive. Alright, well, when you get rid of absolute value bars, what happens? Negative and a positive. So, x, once again, mess up my x's, is either going to be positive 5 or negative 5. There's your two answers. Sloppy circle. Not even a circle. Don't know what sort of shape that is. It's just a closed polygon. Definitely a closed polygon. Again, is it a polygon if it has only one side, inside and outside? Anyways, besides the point. Not a geometry teachers. Yet. Alright. Check for understanding. Solve this equation. Divide by the 3. Get rid of the absolute value. Subtract 10 and divide by 2. What do you get? 4, 3, 2, 1. X is going to be, x should be equal to a negative 6. Should also be equal to a negative 4. Now we can check that by plugging this into this. Negative 6 times 2 is a negative 12, right? Negative 12 plus 10 is a negative 2. Negative 2 times 3. Oh, well, negative 2. Absolute value is a positive 2. Positive 2 times 3 gives you 6. Negative 6 works. Negative 4. What's negative 4 times 2? Negative 8. What's negative 8 plus 10? Positive 2. Positive 2 absolute value, well, that's still a positive 2, times 3. 3 times a positive 2 gives you 6. Negative 4 works. Got my answers. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be it for today's episode. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're understanding absolute value functions a little bit more, absolute value equations a little bit more. Tomorrow we are going to be talking about graphing. Don't really need to be concerned that much. Graphing, we're just going to talk about how absolute values compare to linear graphs, how absolute values compare to absolute value. How do absolute values compare to absolute values? How absolute values compare to quadratics. So it's going to be a lot of more visual things. If you're a visual learner, that's good for you. One thing I do want to say is that we are set up in Teams, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're seeing the stuff in Teams. I'm actually going to upload the first assignment in Teams. It's going to be 3 questions, 2 absolute values and 1 exponential. So seeing if you were paying attention last week. Ladies and gentlemen, I expect to be done. I expect that those 3 questions be done and submitted and uploaded by Wednesday. Do your best. Once again, reach out to your friends on Facebook. I'm getting very small views on these videos, and I want to make sure all my kids see what is being done. Oh my goodness, you're seeing me without my glasses. It's like I'm a totally different person. And I'm back. Ladies and gentlemen, have yourself a good Monday. And once again, stay safe. Don't do things that are unnecessarily dumb. Signing off.